Hello everyone, I'm Justin, and this is a full recap of The Lion King, released in 2019. If you end up enjoying this video and want to see more from us, then make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to know anytime we upload a new video. 30 years ago, Disney released one of its most critically acclaimed and recognizable films ever, The Lion King, which still ranks as the fourth highest grossing Walt Disney Animation Studios film of all time, having raked in $988 million at the worldwide box office. So, when Disney then began reimagining their classic animated projects in live action back in 2010, it was inevitable that they'd remake their most successful film from that period, resulting in the release of The Lion King in 2019, which managed to be the second highest grossing movie of the year and still ranks as the highest grossing remake they've done thus far, bringing in $1.6 billion worldwide. So, off of that film's success, the companies decided to make a prequel titled Mufasa: The Lion King, that will soon be releasing on December 20th, ahead of which we've decided to take a look back at the franchise's previous installment to remind you of everything you'll need to know before the new movie. The movie opens in the Pride Lands at Pride Rock, the center of government and home of the royal family, as King Mufasa and Queen Sarabi hold a ceremony to present their son Simba to the rest of their kingdom, during which a mandrill named Rafiki christens the cub and raises him into the sky to be seen by their subjects. However, there's one member in particular who'd chosen against attending the ceremony, with that someone being Mufasa's own brother, Scar, who Mufasa later confronts about his absence, and Scar expresses bitterness and frustration towards Simba's birth, since, prior to it, he would have been the one next in line to be king. But, although frustrated, Scar chooses against challenging his brother, aware that he's the stronger of the two, and so he accepts this new reality. As Simba grows a few months older, Mufasa allows his son to join him in patrolling the kingdom, so he can see all that they protect, with Mufasa explaining that everything the light touches is their kingdom, which leads Simba to ask him about what's beyond the shadows, but Mufasa orders him to never go there, claiming it's too dangerous. Their patrolling is then interrupted when the king's major domo, a hornbill named Zazu, arrives to inform him that hyenas have been spotted hunting in the Pride Lands. So Mufasa has Zazu take Simba home, and there he soon runs into his uncle Scar, to whom Simba gloats about what he'd seen and expresses glee that he'll one day be king of Pride Rock, which irritates Scar and gives him a sinister idea, as he begins discussing what's beyond the shadows, revealed to be an elephant graveyard, and emphasizes that it's no place for a cub, knowing it would convince Simba to try and take a look for himself to prove his bravery. So Simba tracks down his best friend Nala so they can go see it together, and after convincing their mothers that they're just heading off to take a look at the nearby waterhole, they're permitted to go, although only if Zazu accompanies them. They're eventually able to get Zazu off their trail though, through a musical distraction, before making their way to the elephant graveyard, which is soon also revealed to be the home of the hyenas, a group of which, led by their leader Shenzi, quickly surrounds the two cubs. But just as Shenzi looks to bring an end to Mufasa's bloodline and kill Simba, her attack is thwarted by Zazu, allowing the cubs to momentarily escape before being surrounded once again. However, this attack is then also thwarted, this time by Mufasa's arrival, who manages to fight the hyenas off and lead his son and Nala back home. Mufasa expresses disappointment in Simba's actions that put both his and Nala's lives in danger, and while understanding his desire to prove himself, he advises him that he'll only ever need to display his bravery when there's no other choice. Mufasa struggles to remain upset with his son for long though, and tells him that he'll always be here to guide him, just as the great kings of the past have been there for him, as he believes that each of them are looking down and watching over them from the stars. Meanwhile, in the elephant graveyard, the hyenas, still disgruntled after their failed attack against the cubs earlier, are met in the night by none other than Scar, who's come to offer them a way out of this desolate wasteland they call a home, and strikes a deal to get them into the Pride Lands if they help him kill Mufasa. So the following day, he puts his plan into motion, taking Simba to a gorge so he can find a gift that'll convince his father to forgive him, his roar, explaining that this gorge is where all lions, including his father, came to find their own, which convinces Simba to stay there for a while to try and find his. But shortly after Scar exits so Simba can practice on his own, a stampede of wildebeests suddenly emerges from the distance, revealed to have been caused by the hyenas. And while Simba attempts to avoid being trampled, Scar rushes to Mufasa to inform him of his son's current whereabouts, in turn prompting the king to make his way over in hopes of saving his son. And fortunately, he succeeds in doing so. However, he's then caught in the stampede himself, and forced to try and climb his way up the mountain to escape it. only to be met there by Scar, who violently digs his claws into his brother's paws before shockingly sending him crashing to the ground below and to his death, with his corpse being found shortly thereafter by his son, who Scar blames for Mufasa's death and orders to run away and never return, giving the hyenas a perfect opportunity to hunt him down and kill him, but he fortunately just manages to escape them. Not wanting to upset Scar, they decide to lie and confirm that Simba had been killed. And so, with the king and his heir both presumably dead, Scar assumes the throne himself, and announces to the rest of the kingdom that he'll be enlisting the help of the hyenas to protect the pride. Meanwhile, Simba, after a long and exhausting journey, eventually falls unconscious, before then being found by a warthog named Pumbaa and a meerkat named Timon, best friends who are at first frightened at the sight of a lion, but consider that, since he's young, they may be able to befriend him. Upon awakening though, Simba refuses to speak much to them, still feeling immense guilt over the death of his father. So the two try to cheer him up by suggesting that he put whatever he's gone through behind him, and introduce him through a musical number to the phrase Hakuna Matata, which means no worries. And Simba soon buys into their philosophy, and takes on a carefree lifestyle alongside them over the course of the next several years. The life of those stuck living under Scar's leadership in the Pride Lands hasn't been quite as enjoyable, however, as we learn that the hyenas have managed to chase off the last of the herds, putting the Pride Lands in imminent danger. But Scar sees no issue with how he's chosen to run things, and is instead more fixated on Queen Sarabi, to whom he suggests, with Mufasa having been gone for quite some time now, that she become his queen. But she of course refuses, so until she agrees to stand by his side, the lions will only be allowed to eat after the hyenas, which proves to be the final straw for a now adult Nala, who'd been considering leaving the Pride Lands in hopes of finding help, and so, with assistance from Zazu, she's able to escape that night. Not long after her escape, she comes across Timon and Pumbaa, who she promptly goes to attack, forcing Simba to step in, although his intervention quickly calms the situation, as he and Nala soon recognize one another and are elated to finally be reunited. They quickly take this opportunity to try and make up for lost time, with Simba giving her a tour of his new home. But eventually, Nala has to put the good times on hold to discuss the current state of the Pride Lands, informing him of Scar's tyrannical rule and insisting that Simba must challenge him for the throne. But Simba, to her confusion, refuses to return, believing things will be better if he just leaves his old life in the past. And his decision greatly disappoints Nala, who's shocked to see how far he strayed from his father's ways. So she exits, but it isn't long before Simba encounters someone else from his past, with that someone being Rafiki, who arrives claiming he could help reunite Simba with his father as well. And so Simba follows him through the jungle into a pool of water, through which he's able to communicate with the spirit of Mufasa, who insists he must take his place in the circle of life, and tries his best to help him remember the son he'd felt so proud to call his own. And his father's words work in readjusting Simba's worldview, and he finally decides it's time he return home. So he rushes back to the Pride Lands, with Pumbaa, Timon, and eventually Nala all by his side, before then also being spotted and subsequently joined by Zazu. Meanwhile, Scar has again called on Sarabi, in hopes that she's come to her senses and will agree to be his queen. But she again refuses, claiming Scar is nothing compared to Mufasa, which prompts the king to attack her until he's stopped by Simba's arrival. Rather than engage in a battle against Simba though, Scar instead attempts to turn the rest of the lions against him, revealing that Simba was the one responsible for Mufasa's death, and Simba admits this is true. However, he opposes Scar's claims that he's a murderer, insisting it was only an accident, while Scar and the hyenas all slowly march towards and nearly send him falling from the top of Pride Rock. And Scar, seeing Simba now in the same predicament his father had found himself in all those years ago, violently digs his claws into Simba's paws and takes this opportunity to reveal that he was his father's true murderer. But he fails to then kill Simba, who instead manages to pull himself up by biting into Scar. So, with the truth of Mufasa's death now out in the open, Scar orders the hyenas to kill them all. But, with help from Zazu, Pumbaa, Timon, and later Rafiki, Simba, Nala, and the lions are able to defeat his army, leaving Scar all on his own to battle against Simba. And so, he immediately tries to throw the hyenas under the bus, claiming it was all their idea. But Simba refuses to believe his lies and, not wanting to kill his own family as Scar did, orders him to run away and never return. However, Scar instead unleashes a sneak attack on his nephew, forcing Simba to battle against him, and their brawl eventually results in the latter sending his uncle falling off the cliff, Although, it isn't the fall that ends up killing him, but rather the hyenas, who, having overheard his insulting claims, surround and pounce on the now former king. With the Pride Land saved, Simba assumes his rightful place as king, with Nala becoming his queen shortly thereafter, and even birthing their child, for whom they hold a ceremony, as Mufasa and Sarabi had once done for him as the movie ends. And that was our recap of 2019's The Lion King. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, let us know in the comments below which version of The Lion King is your favorite. But, once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.